Nastya rode her scooter along the winding, well-kept streets of an elite cottage village. Towering houses surrounded her, each rivaling the size of a small shopping mall. Pulling up to one of them, a genuine palace of light brick with wrought iron gates, she turned off the engine. Nastya removed her helmet and looked around, whistling in amazement. "Some people really know how to live," she muttered under her breath. "Nothing like us plebeians." She hung her helmet on the mirror and adjusted her courier service jacket. The doorbell didn't bring an immediate response. She had to wait. Finally, the door cracked open, and an older woman in a strict black dress, clearly a housekeeper, appeared on the threshold. Without a word, she gestured for Nastya to enter the spacious hallway and then disappeared. Nastya took a few steps forward, but froze at the sound of voices. They came from a slightly ajar door to the right, loud and emotional. She couldn't help but listen in. "I said, well, strip him bare, down to his last penny. Artyom, dear, do you hear me?" A mocking female voice said. "Yes, yes, my fish. Everything will be just as you want," a young man's voice replied, dripping with sarcasm. "I'm savoring your plan. You're a genius, Svetlana. He won't stand a chance." This was followed by the sounds of passionate, greedy kisses. Nastya involuntarily held her breath, feeling awkward. But in the next moment, the door swung open, and a tall, glamorous blonde stepped into the hallway. She adjusted her expensive silk dress, which had slipped slightly. Her gaze flicked over Nastya as if she were nothing more than an annoying fly that had flown in. "Come here," the woman beckoned to the maid, who hurried over immediately. "Give this package to the courier personally into my husband's hands." "Understood." "And then call a premium taxi. My guest is leaving, and I need a driver. I have business to attend to as well." "Yes, Svetlana Nikolaevna, of course," the housekeeper replied quietly, avoiding eye contact. Her face was pale, and her anxious glance darted toward the door the woman had just exited. It was clear the servant knew a lot, but was too afraid to say a word, fearing for her job. Svetlana strode majestically deeper into the house, disappearing behind another door. The housekeeper, holding the package, approached Nastya. "You need to deliver this to Mr. Platonov. Only into his hands, please, it's very important." "Where exactly?" Nastya asked, taking the package. "To his head office. The address is on the package," the maid replied. "His assistant will meet you. Just say you're from Svetlana Nikolaevna, his wife." Nastya nodded. "All right, no problem." She looked at the housekeeper again. The woman's face was etched with unspoken guilt and fear. Nastya shook her head. "Not my business." Her job was delivery. Nastya confidently rode her scooter through the bustling city streets. The head office of Mr. Platonov's company turned out to be a glass skyscraper in the heart of the business district. After parking her scooter, she entered, feeling slightly out of place in the strict confines of the office building. When she stated her purpose at the reception desk, she was let through. The elevator silently carried her to the top floor. In the spacious lobby, a young assistant was already waiting for her. He pressed a button on the intercom and said, "Igor Olegovich, a courier from Svetlana Nikolaevna is here." A response came, and the assistant gestured toward a door. In the expansive office with panoramic windows, behind a massive desk, sat an imposing man. Nastya immediately noticed his height, broad shoulders, and the tailored suit that accentuated his stature. His face bore a slight pensiveness and a faint smirk at the corners of his lips. His sharp, intelligent gaze settled on her. Nastya approached the desk and handed over the slim package. "Here, they asked for it to be delivered personally," she said, trying to sound official. Igor Platonov took the package. He quickly tore open the envelope, pulled out the single sheet of paper, and frowned. Then his eyebrows shot up in surprise. He reread the contents several times, as if he couldn't believe his eyes. "I don't understand, what is she planning?" he murmured, more to himself than anyone else. His voice sounded bewildered. Nastya, watching his reaction, blurted out, "They probably want to ruin you. I overheard your wife and someone else talking about stripping you bare and leaving you with nothing." She flushed at the double entendre of her words and added, "And they were kissing so passionately afterward." The man's face changed instantly. Shocked surprise gave way to a grimace of deep bitterness. His eyes reflected not only the rage of betrayal, but also the pain of a deceived man. "So that's it," he whispered hoarsely. He looked at Nastya, and something in his gaze made her shudder. "Ah, Svetlana, you brought this on yourself." Suddenly, his gaze lingered on Nastya, as if her presence had sparked an idea in his mind. Igor asked softly, "Forgive me, what's your name?" "Nastya," the girl replied. "Anastasia, are you a brave girl?" he asked seriously. "Help me." Nastya recoiled. "Me? Why me?" she asked, not understanding how an ordinary courier could help a billionaire. Igor smiled faintly. A spark reappeared in his eyes. "You see, Anastasia, my wife knows every employee in the company, every secretary, every manager. I need unpredictability. I need to throw her off balance with a completely new face. I have an important meeting today, and your presence will help me defend myself." He paused, looking intently at Nastya. "And I must admit, you're a very pretty girl." With a little dressing up and polishing, he nodded at her courier uniform. "You could play your part more than convincingly." Nastya stared at him in shock. "Are you serious? That's dangerous," she exclaimed. "What if she finds out? What if this Artyom is dangerous? Do you want me dead?" Igor narrowed his eyes. "Artyom, you say? That's something. What does he look like?" "I didn't see him," Nastya replied. "But your housekeeper definitely knows who he is and what he looks like." The man's face darkened, then broke into a predatory smile. "Excellent. That's more than enough information," he murmured. He understood her concerns and guaranteed her complete safety. "I'll personally ensure it. And as for compensation," he paused, his eyes gleaming, "after we sort everything out, you'll receive an amount that might allow you to fulfill a long-held dream. Tell me, have you ever been to Bali?" Nastya stared at him in astonishment. Bali. She had never been farther than her own region, and here was Igor, as if reading her mind. She couldn't tear her eyes away from his calm, slightly mocking gaze. A mix of curiosity, excitement, and an unspoken sympathy for this unusual man, who could so easily change her life, bubbled up inside her. The risk was great, but the prospects were tempting. Nastya agreed. A spark of adventure lit up in her eyes. Igor, noticing this, nodded approvingly. "Kirill," he said to his assistant, pressing the intercom button, "take our guest to a boutique. Pick out the best business suit for her. Then to a stylist have them do her hair and makeup. She needs to be ready by 5 p.m. We're going to the shareholders' meeting." Igor looked at Nastya again, a faint smirk playing on his lips. "Just please try not to break anything there," he said with a light smile, hinting at her courier boldness. "I already have one lady who wants to tear everything to shreds." The assistant opened the door. Though surprised by the turn of events, he nodded obediently. "It will be done, Igor Olegovich." Nastya, slightly dazed by the rapid turn of events, headed for the door. Glancing back at the threshold, she saw Igor confidently speaking on the phone with the head of security, requesting the housekeeper be brought to his office immediately. Nastya had never been in such expensive boutiques, where even the air seemed infused with luxury. The consultant, used to clients with deep pockets and gold credit cards, selected several options for Nastya without unnecessary questions. After a few fittings, Nastya settled on an elegant, perfectly tailored dark blue suit that accentuated her figure and surprisingly improved her posture. Then came the stylist. Hours flew by unnoticed in the chair as skilled hands worked magic on her hair and face. Finally, the stylist stepped back, and Nastya looked in the mirror. Her heart fluttered. She saw a completely unfamiliar woman, confident, refined, with shining eyes and a new, elegant hairstyle. There was no trace of the courier girl left. She barely recognized herself, and the thought of how others would react only heightened her anticipation. As the clock approached 5 p.m., Igor Platonov was already waiting for Nastya in the conference center lobby. He was impeccable in his expensive suit, looking calm and composed, though inside he was boiling with anticipation of the decisive blow he was about to deliver. Suddenly, his gaze froze. Down the wide staircase from the lobby walked a stunning young woman in a perfectly fitted dark blue business suit, her hair elegantly styled. The bold, scrappy courier girl was gone. Approaching him was a refined, breathtaking woman. Igor felt his heart clench for a moment, then beat faster. He barely recognized her. His eyes reflected genuine, poorly concealed admiration. Nastya approached him, feeling his intense gaze. Excitement mixed with pride in her transformation. "So, how do I look?" she asked, unconsciously adjusting her jacket. Igor slowly looked her over from head to toe, his signature smirk appearing on his lips, but this time it was warm and amazed. "Well, Anastasia," he drawled, slightly bowing his head, "I think I was hasty when I asked you not to break anything. With this look, you risk breaking much more, like all my dear wife's hopes." Nastia smiled, sensing his sincere reaction. "I'll try not to let you down." Igor nodded. Their eyes met. "I have no doubt about that. Just remember, you're my trump card, my secret weapon." He offered her his arm, and Nastia, feeling his strength and warmth, allowed him to lead her into the hall where the fate of his empire would be decided. The anticipation of battle mixed with a new, inexplicable excitement. The hotel's conference room buzzed with subdued voices. Several elderly, respected shareholders were already seated at the massive table. Their faces were inscrutable, but their eyes betrayed anticipation. At the head of the table, with her usual air of superiority, sat Svetlana. Her perfectly styled hair, strict yet luxurious outfit, and every gesture screamed of her power and unshakable confidence in victory. The doors to the hall opened silently, and Igor appeared in the doorway. His tall, imposing figure in a flawless suit immediately drew all eyes, but he wasn't the center of attention. Beside him, as if she had stepped off the cover of a fashion magazine, walked Anastasia. The room fell into absolute silence. All eyes, filled with amazement and curiosity, turned to the pair. Svetlana, seeing this dazzling woman beside her husband, literally froze. Her wide, haughty smile slowly slipped from her face, revealing a grimace of confusion and burning jealousy. She narrowed her eyes, feverishly trying to remember who this stranger was and where she had come from. Unpleasant suspicions were already swarming in her mind. Igor, enjoying the effect had produced, led Anastasia to the table. He took his place at the head, and his assistant sat beside him, even scooting her chair closer to demonstrate their closeness to the shareholders. The gesture was like a slap in the face to his wife. Svetlana, barely recovering from the initial shock, gritted her teeth. When she began to speak, her voice was sharp, but she tried to maintain a mask of professionalism. She accused Igor of outdated management methods, incompetence, and even misappropriation of funds. Her arguments were carefully fabricated, the numbers convincing. She presented pre-prepared reports and forecasts, promising the shareholders enormous profits under her sole leadership. "My husband, unfortunately, has failed to adapt to the new market realities," Svetlana said. Her voice grew more confident as she saw some shareholders beginning to nod. "And his questionable distractions?" She let her gaze slide over Nastia. "They only distract him from the company. But I have a plan that will take us to a new level. I'm not speaking empty words, I rely on independent expert opinions." Nastia felt her heart sink. Was all this for nothing? Were they going to lose? At that moment, when the tension in the room reached its peak and Svetlana looked triumphantly at Igor, he calmly stood up. The same faint, mocking smile that so irritated Svetlana played on his lips. "Esteemed shareholders," Igor began. His voice was calm and confident. "My respected wife mentioned questionable distractions. I agree, some distractions can indeed be questionable." He paused. "And sometimes very dangerous for our business." At his barely perceptible nod, the young assistant turned on the projector. A photo of Artyom from some criminal case appeared on the huge screen behind Igor. Next, a dossier flashed, with headlines highlighted: "Con man ruined dozens of wealthy widows." "International marriage fraudster." "Ties to underground gambling clubs." Then newspaper clippings and photos appeared, proving his fraudulent schemes and connections to the criminal underworld. Svetlana, seeing this, paled. Her eyes widened in horror. She looked at the screen, then at Igor, who continued to stand impassively. Her lips trembled. Igor spoke slowly, a slight smirk in his voice. "Well, my dear wife," he said, looking her straight in the eyes, "it seems your game is up, and I must admit, it wasn't your best performance, though you've always been a master of self-destruction. Your lies, your intrigues, it's all born of your innate disgust for anyone who doesn't meet your high standards. Now it's all out in the open. You dug this hole for yourself, and it seems quite deep. Our marriage, I think, can now be officially considered over. See you in court." Then Igor turned to the shareholders. "Gentlemen," his voice rose, "you've seen everything for yourselves. I believe you now have no doubts about who truly cares for the future of our company, and who is ready to destroy it for their own greed and others' interests. I propose we immediately re-elect the board of directors and exclude those involved in this conspiracy." The shareholders nodded in unison. Some were already pulling out tablets to sign the necessary documents. Svetlana's plan had collapsed completely and irrevocably. She cast a hate-filled glance at Igor and Anastasia. Then, without a word, she turned and staggered out of the hall. No one tried to stop her. After the tense vote, when the decision was unanimously made, the shareholders left, and the room emptied. Igor approached Anastasia. He took her hand, and Nastya felt the warmth of his palm. Anastasia, he said her name affectionately for the first time that day, and in it, she heard so much tenderness and genuine admiration. Her heart fluttered. "You were magnificent." Nastya smiled. "I just wanted to help." Igor gently squeezed her hand. "And you helped more than you can imagine. Now it's time to celebrate our victory. I think Bali is waiting for you." From that day on, Nastya's life changed forever. She no longer had to work as a courier, delivering other people's letters in the heat and cold on her rattling scooter. Igor offered her a job at his company. Their constant meetings in the office and the impression she had made on her future boss that memorable day led their professional relationship to grow into something more. And when they flew to Bali, they went as a couple. There, Nastya saw the endless ocean for the first time, and Igor no longer hid his feelings behind a mocking smile. He realized that a person's true value isn't measured by wealth or social status, but by courage, sincerity, and kindness. As for Svetlana, after the divorce, no one heard from her again. Her greed and envy led to her complete downfall, leaving her alone, without money, and without Artyom, who vanished without a trace after his video confession. Nastya not only gained a dream come true, but also found real love, something she hadn't even dared to dream of. Did you like my story? Be sure to leave a comment and subscribe to our channel. A new story will be out in just a couple of days. Don't miss the new stories.